Okay, so this week's video is actually in my mailbox downstairs, so that's what I'm gonna go get now. This is the first part, there's a couple more. Amazon here likes to, for some reason, give you a bag for everything, so 3 different packages. This week I'm going to talk about the film photography accessories that I bought when I started shooting photos because I thought they might be cool to you as well. I do have affiliate links for this stuff in the description just to be upfront, but that's besides the point. That's not why I made this video. I'm interested in some cool accessories for your film cameras, and yeah, let's get into the first one. I had a lot of this stuff, a lot of it is old, so I thought I would reorder it and unbox it. I'm going to get started with the first thing. Oh, okay, a shutter release cable. If you've done long exposure stuff, this stuff is essential. I've been working on this project in New Jersey, shooting a ton of large format photos, and basically with any camera, if you're gonna be doing long exposures, one of these cable releases is essential. Anything over a 60th of a second, it's going to make sure that your camera doesn't shake when you press the shutter. This is much easier to shoot with, and it just gives you peace of mind that you're going to get a steady shot when you start that long exposure. Also, I recently took a couple of these nighttime photos in New Jersey. This thing was essential. I had exposures that were 4 minutes long, and what's nice is that you can press this down and lock it into place so that you can just leave your camera unattended while a long exposure is going, and then you can pop that right back up when you're done with the exposure. It's really nice. I set a timer on my phone because it doesn't come down to the second when an exposure is something like 4 minutes long. So this is definitely something I'd recommend picking up if you're trying to get into some long exposures. So this thing screws into the shutter button of most cameras, and it has this pin that pops out when you press the button. So basically it's just an extension of the shutter button. So if you put your camera in bulb mode, then this should stay open for as long as this pin is pressed down. That's that. Super fun. If you haven't tried any long exposures, I highly recommend it. It's really fun just going out at night with a tripod and one of these and some color film, and you can do a lot of cool things. Here's some more nighttime photos from New Jersey. All of these were shot with a cable release. I had a ton of fun making these, and it's kind of a new project that I'm working on about my time growing up in the suburbs, but there'll be more about that in another video. Okay, so there's one last thing in this bag, and it's a paracord camera strap. So I've never actually owned one of these paracord ones, but it seems pretty cool, especially for a small 35mm camera like this one here. It's nice to be able to just have it secure around your wrist and not have to worry about dropping it. I don't shoot a ton of 35mm film, but this wrist strap is definitely nice for smaller street cameras like this. This is my grandpa's old camera, which I've been carrying around more and more recently. And yeah, good strap. Don't have to worry about dropping it because this is a camera I can't really replace. It also just looks pretty cool. I'm a fan of the paracord stuff. Yeah, keep your camera safe. Ooh, okay. This is more my style. If you don't own one of these already, you should. It's a reflector. Super essential portrait photography thing. Okay, if you don't own a reflector already, then you're missing out. This stuff is super cool. If you're shooting portraits, you can reflect some light. This thing also opens up. So you got a diffuser. You can hold this in front of your subject. It's just gonna give you much nicer, softer light for the portrait stuff. And it's also got the silver reflecting side, the white reflecting side, and the gold reflecting side. So you've got plenty of options, as well as just like negative fill. So if I didn't want any light hitting my face here, I could totally just block out light with the back side as well. I'm gonna take the diffusion off this light, and then you can see what this does for sun, basically. So this is basically what the sun would look like without any diffusion, and if I hold this up to the light, you can see that the shadows are much softer and it just looks a lot better. You can have someone hold this up for you. These come in a ton of different sizes, and because they fold down, they're so easy to just throw in your bag. So I'm gonna put my diffusion back on though. Everything on this list is also super affordable, so if you wanna check it out, links will be in the description. But we have more stuff to look at. Okay, this I'm actually excited about because these are super trendy and I've seen them everywhere, but I've never actually tried one out for myself. So, ooh, this is tiny. Look at this tiny little box. These are shutter release buttons, which with all the Leica shooters and stuff, I feel like everybody swears by this, but I've never actually tried one. So supposedly it makes pressing the shutter on your camera easier if you've got a tough shutter. It makes sense, you've got a lot more surface area, and I definitely see why people might use these. They also just look great, and it definitely makes pressing that shutter a little easier. It just has more surface area. So I do get what the hype's about. I feel like sometimes these things are just more for the aesthetic, but I kind of dig it. I might leave that on. I'm gonna try one on my RZ as well. Honestly, the black does look good, and honestly, I think this thing just looks cooler. If anything, it hides that little silver button and you get a little more surface area, so technically the shutter is a little nicer to press. Much more of an aesthetic, trendy thing that I've seen blasted all over Instagram, but still cool to try out. And now I have a bag of them. So these were also super cheap. They were like 10 bucks for this whole set, so not bad at all. Okay, so the next thing I actually got off of eBay, and I have one of these already, but I wanted to get a second one in a smaller size because I'm using mine so much, and it's a little Tiffin Pro Mist filters. So if you don't know what these are, they're like little diffusion filters for your camera. So they essentially diffuse the light that's coming into the camera a little bit. They soften up the image and they give it a little bit more of a dreamy look. Debatable whether you like it or not. It definitely comes down to personal preference. You can get these in a ton of different strengths. I have a 1/4, which is actually on this camera right now, and an 1/8, which I got for this smaller camera. These filters are super popular in the cinema world. My friend Alan, who's a super cinematic photographer, uses these all the time. That's kind of where I found out about them. And then you also just see them used in a ton of movies. They're cool. They give your highlights a little bit of a glow. It's a subtle effect depending on the strength. They're kind of expensive, but they are really nice quality, and these filters aren't something you're going to get rid of immediately. You can use these on whatever lenses you end up buying going forward as well. And with a much bigger one like this, I just use some adapter rings to adapt it to different camera sizes. I recommend you get a slightly bigger one and just use adapter rings if you have multiple lenses. That's what I tend to do. So this filter is a 52mm because I have a Canon lens that's 52mm, and then I bought an adapter ring so that it goes down to this 49mm camera, and that way I can use a single filter on multiple different cameras. The other one I own for my Mamiya is the 77mm, and that thing basically stays on my camera all the time except for when I'm recording these videos. If you are interested in any of this stuff, links are in the description. Like I said before, they're affiliate links, so they help out the channel if you do end up buying something through there. I also have a podcast out. It's called C41 Podcast, and it's all about talking to young contemporary photographers in the industry. So it's a really cool podcast. There's currently 3 episodes out with some of my homies who are some of the coolest photographers I know. So if you haven't already had a listen to the podcast, definitely check it out. Let me know what you thought of this video down below. Definitely a new style of video for me. I upload every Sunday at 11 a.m. Links will be in the description. That's it for this video. Peace.